This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR.
Hello, Katarina.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine. So, my dear, what's on your mind currently?
I think it's impossible to not say that the recession and the effects, even if I think there's nobody that didn't hope that it would be over by now, but I think it affects a lot of things, especially in organizations and also the plans. So H2 to 2023 will also be about I think we will hear even more about efficiencies and smarter moves and right sizing and all that is quite heavy kind of in an HR team. The second thing that is on my mind is obviously kind of the engagement piece then. How do you also double down and focus on the things that are actually doing or going really well in an organization, and how do you dress your employees and also your manager in a way that you try to take away the kind of the noise of what's happening globally and in other companies, especially if it's not necessarily happening in your company, and focus on what you need to do in your business. And the third thing I think is like for most organizations and for HR too, AI,
Yeah.
and all the possibilities and it can do and all the opportunities it will bring, but also obviously a couple of things that a lot of people are worried about, even if you think it could maybe democratize how we drive development, or it could democratize opportunities in an organization where it's not up to the manager's discretion, and where the whole kind of profession can also step in and bring back the human into what now the opportunities of the technology will do. But I also think when we talk about AI, instead of focusing and getting stuck on kind of the scary part, or where it's going, or if it's going to drive even more biases rather than the opposite, I think it's time, or high time, if people, one, should stop saying in the future when we have AI, because it's already here. It's not helpful to think it's something that's going to be in the future. Secondly, to kind of start to try and poke around and also use it in many ways where some of the repetitive things, also in an HR department, actually already can disappear, or if you haven't. So if you combine that with HR tech and also with kind of your philosophy of HR, I think there is a lot of gold to be found within this space. And there's no decisions made out of fear that are good decisions.
No.
I think you need to be open-minded about it. I think you need to try it. I think you need to have a plan of where does it fit for us, and how and what principles should we have in place. Because it's going to affect, obviously, recruitment. Or talent acquisition. It's going to affect learning and development. It's going to affect what types of roles. It's going to affect also how we do that upskill and cross-skill that we all talked about a couple of months or years ago, when that was the only thing everybody was talking about. Now, if you're going to keep your employees and managers relevant for the next step, and it's here and it's going to go much faster, you have to have a view of what type of skill set do you need and what will be redundant. And there's time now to help your employees to kind of move into the space where they are employable in the next phase too. Then, of course, if they don't want to, or if you believe that you will need as many people doing the same things in the same way that you've done it the last 10 years, that's a different thing. But there's a lot of things that behavioral scientists actually can do now, and I think it's a good time to do that. And to be honest, I think it's also a very exciting time rather than a scary time.
I agree. And I think also for HR, if we just look at HR as a function, I think this is such an interesting period to both be part of, drive the change, experience, learn from. But on that topic, and I think, I know, I mean, Spotify, you have AI, you've been working with AI for so many years because it's so integrated in your product and in your services. Assuming that you also, though, have employees who are a bit scared or hesitant towards the change because of, you know, how will this maybe impact my job? How do you tackle that uncertainty with your Spotifyers?
I think there are so many things you can do on different layers. One is to talk about it, obviously, and then also showcase how it's being used. And here it might be helpful for us because generative AI in our product or in our platform is a one way of actually showcasing on a daily basis when you are using that platform.
True.
of how it could be used. But I also think that most people in a tech company like ours have been trying at least to get a notion, no matter what profession you have, with ChatGPT and what the large language models can actually do for you. And then to have, I think, a sober discussion of, okay, so we know that the structure, we know that the system has been biased for so many years. How do we make sure that what we then program, whatever we do, might not follow that same structure? Meaning, of course, that the people that are coding, the people that are prompting, should also be as diverse as possible. So there are a lot of opportunities, and you don't have to fall in the same traps over and over again. And then I think we are spoiled with having really smart and front-leaning and leaning in people that actually are maybe some of the most okay, how do you say that without bragging? But I think
Brag.
No, but
Brag.
I have colleagues that can actually take something that is super complex
Yes.
for most of us,
Yeah.
and explain it in a way that all of us go like, I actually get this.
Yeah.
I call him Professor Söderström, for instance. He's not a professor, so Gustav Söderström, who heads up all of R&D, product and tech for us. It's a talk that I think everybody should listen to, especially if you haven't gotten to know what AI and generative AI and LLMs are. It's a really good podcast, and we try to educate everybody internally, and of course people in his teams. We get a lot of questions on the intro days when we introduce everybody, and there's so many other people and other departments, but there is an opportunity in automation that I think tech companies and other companies have not necessarily taken. And I think this is what we're going to see, and we're going to see it quite fast. And in my own HR department or team, I think the way that we first introduced Disco together with the HR Insights team, and Disco, as we've been talking about here with Gary, who is kind of the mastermind behind that, is where the numbers come to dance. Like, it's our people analytics. Again, it's built on the same kind of thinking of playlist, right? And whatever I go in and poke and what numbers I want, then it pushes, like, maybe if you're interested in comp and ben, or you're interested in diversity, or you, Katarina, you go in every month and look at attrition and things, and then it combines. And then the next step, when we introduce the internal marketplace, again, I mean, we all know if you have a good boss or bad boss when it comes to your development. And if we also say that you should drive your own development, to have an internal marketplace that actually works the same way, more or less, as our own product. So instead of listeners, you have employees. Instead of playlist or artists, you have all the opportunities. If it's mentorship, it's projects, or if it's open roles, or it's running a bet, or being a product manager, all these things are in there. So instead of, hey, nobody sees me because I'm not at the mothership or the headquarter, I'm actually in Sao Paulo, or I'm in Sydney. If you only make sure that your CV or your profile is up to date, the matching goes without biases. Again, democratizing your development and matching you for promotions or other things, right? So there are many things that are not very scary, and now very excited because
and very useful.
Very, very
Super
useful in so
useful.
many ways. But also now with the next thing in kind of the Lego system of HR tech tools is Bounce, right?
Have we talked about Bounce?
We haven't, so you should invite Gary back because I think you could see easily with the Echo, with Disco, with Scout, where we lean in a bit more actively in doing kind of the succession planning and promotion and finding all those rising stars in the organization for different positions. And if you think everybody is a talent, then Bounce actually connects everything. So it's a beast in the sense that it's very, very complex, but it does a lot of things where we before had to kind of sit manually and do that.
Sure.
Frees time to all these smart people in the HR department to do other things that is interpersonal, right?
Yeah.
That has to do with vision, that has to do with strategy, that has to do with actually supporting the business to become a very successful business rather than to do kind of manual, also important things that we use to call kind of the playbook or the HR handbook or whatever, depending on what department you are, that actually the system itself or the generative AI helps a lot with that. So freeing time, especially for the HR specialists, which is really cool to see.
It is. So continue to learn, be curious. If there is a fraction of uncertainty, bounce that off with someone, your manager, your peer. And then, of course, I am so looking forward to welcoming back Gary to talk about Bounce in depth.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of mind-blowing in so many ways. And again, everybody keeps asking us, where did you buy? Who actually built that? He and the team built that. So it's very, very relevant for us. But I think it's one of those plug and play for any organization that really want to be data informed, but also move into the next era of generative AI.
Whenever I speak to Gary, I'm like, when do you sell this to the outside market? Because there are so many of us who actually need that.
Oh, we get.
Could you please?
Yes, we get so many pings on all these three because they haven't seen Bounce yet. So all these four.
So Disco, Echo, and then Bounce.
And Bounce, but also Scout.
Scout, sorry.
Yes.
Scout.
So that is something that is up for debate, but we do HR. We don't necessarily do HR tech, but maybe we should. Maybe we should start to offer that.
You should.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, on behalf of everyone, you should.
Okay.
We need it.
Yes.
We need a Gary.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The three things.
Okay.
My dear.
Okay.
Shall we?
Yes. Stay strong, stay active, stay whatever you want, just as long as you do proper people work. Was that the wrong things?
Stay safe. No.
Stay safe, stay strong, stay active.
Stay strong. Nej.
Yeah.
Stay safe, stay strong, stay active.
I medalje.
De bara flög ut.
Det är precis där de på Mallorca, fast de var på Kanarieöarna.
Nej, de var på Palma.
Jo, jag förstår ju.
Vad fina de här blommorna var här.
Ja.
Växtligheten, jättefint.
Så somrigt, va?
Ja.
Sommaren kommer igen. Ge mig en sekund.
Känna. Vänta. Ser du, Katarina? Working it.
Okej, upp med luren då.
Jaha. Jag kollar in i fönstret. Gud vad vi är gulliga.
Hur vet du det?
Jättegulligt. Jag ser ju. Det är därför Simon säger, sluta titta på dig själv. Titta in i kameran. Ja, men jag ser ju där.